Hey everybody, Steve with the TroutWise channel. In previous videos, I've told you that I don't like these rubber bags and that I don't use the rubber bags, that I use an alternative. Well, in today's episode of the Adaptability series, we're going to look at the alternatives. Now, before you go clicking that back button because you're just sure that we all need to be using these rubber nets because that's what's best for the fish, we knew that you were going to say that. That's why we made this video, where we looked at different styles and materials as far as net bags go and the effect that they actually have on fish. So be sure and check out that video because I'm telling you, it's not as straightforward as you might think. So let's get into this episode of the Adaptability series. Let's get into the issues that myself and others like myself have with these rubber bags and the reasons that we don't use them. Number one, they're heavy. Number two, there's a lot of resistance under the water. They're very difficult to move under the water. Number three, lots of material. You've always got an excess amount of material just hanging out there waiting to get caught on something. Number four, hole size. Most of these rubber style nets have pretty large holes, and the larger and deeper the bag is, the larger the holes are going to be. On the largest bags, the holes are so large that small trout can just swim right through them. But beyond that, one of my pet peeves, and for a lot of others as well, is if you've gone to fishing weighted flies, weighted nymphs, beadhead nymphs, they have a tendency to fall through those large holes. Number five, they're fragile. There's nothing inside the material here. This is actually not rubber at all. It is silicone. The bag is made from silicone. There's no rubber in there, and there's no reinforcing material in there. It doesn't take much. Just my pinky finger in one hole and out the other, and a little bit of pressure, and all of a sudden, look at that. You got a new hole in your net. So number five is they're very fragile. And number six, it's a pain to change the net bag. If you've got a carbon fiber net or a fiberglass net, these rubber bags are typically held on with some type of thread. And if you want to change the bag, you've got to cut that thread, unstring everything, and then restring the new bag. Very time-consuming process. Even if you use the O-rings, you've still got to use the thread. So, that's pretty inconvenient, and it also discourages you from using a different net bag with your net because you're not going to change the net bag on a whim if it's just that difficult. Think about this for a minute. Why do all net manufacturers manufacture nets of different sizes with different bag depths? It's because you're always going to be best off if you have the right tool for the job. You don't need the same net for fishing a high mountain stream where you're chasing Gila trout, golden trout, or brook trout that you would use on, say, the frying pan or the San Juan where you're going after some of those pig rainbows. Two different nets that you need for two different situations. So they make different nets. And what's nice for their bottom dollar is if you want to have the right tool for the job, it means you're going to have to buy multiple nets. So from my perspective, that's just inefficient and expensive. So what do I use instead of the rubber bags or the silicone bags? I use this, rubber-coated nets. But the funny thing is, these aren't rubber either. The coating on the bag is actually PVC. And I know when you hear PVC, you think PVC. That's not what you need to be thinking of. What you need to be thinking of is something more like this. It's a piece of copper wire. The insulation on that copper wire is PVC. It's just a thinner and more flexible version of PVC. And that's what we've got on these coated bags, is a thinner, more flexible version of PVC. And I use very specific versions of these coated bags. The versions that I use are what's called a zip-off version. And what that means is the sleeve that goes around the hoop on the net. that holds the net bag to the net frame actually has a zipper on it. So to remove the bag, all you've got to do is undo that zipper and you can just take the bag right off. Take you about 60 seconds to swap out bags. Just that easy. When I went looking for a better solution than the silicone net bags, I found a variety of net bags that I could use, replacement net bags, and settled on the zip-off ones. Obviously, those are tremendously efficient. And then I bought a few of those, all the ones that I could find that seemed to fit the bill, and I compared them with some of the silicone bags. And I won't bore you with all the details and throw up all the charts with all the numbers, but I will put those charts in at the end of the video in case you're like me, because I sweat the details. I really look at everything from every angle to see what's most efficient. And in those charts, you'll find the numbers that you're looking for if you're like me and you want to see what really works. For today's video, we've got 6 different net bags that we're going to take a look at, and I'm going to tell you what works and what doesn't. Number 1 is the bag that comes standard with the Bozeman Flyworks net. And you've seen this net before, and we've recommended this net to you in previous videos. This is the silicone bag that comes standard with that net. So this is going to be our control net, if you will, and everything else will be compared to that. Number 2 is a coated net from a company called Adamsbuilt. This is the small version of their coated bag, and as you can see, it is very comparable in size and shape to the Bozeman Flyworks bag. So we can really compare apples to apples there, because not all of these nets are the same size. Number 3 is another coated net from a company called MeasureNet. This one's a little bit larger, a little bit deeper, and it has the MeasureNet feature where, as you can see, there are markings along the bottom of the bag. So as your trout is lying in the bag, you know exactly how long your trout is. Kind of a nifty feature. Number 4 is the large bag from Adamsbuilt. As you can see, this is also a much larger, much deeper net with slightly larger holes, but it's basically the same as the Adamsbuilt, the small Adamsbuilt we showed you before, just a larger size. Number 5 is the FISHPOND net that comes standard on their Nomad hand net. I don't have one to show you because my buddy whose FISHPOND net he loaned me for testing purposes, he took it back because he needed to go fishing, so understandable. And number 6 is a net from a company called Lucky Strike. And as it turns out, because I ordered this online, had no idea what it was, just thought it might work. But as it turns out, it's the exact same thing as a measure net. I mean, it is the exact same net, other than instead of having the numbers for the measurements, it actually says Lucky Strike and has, I guess, the year that they were started, 1929, on the bottom. But other than that, it's exactly the same as the measure net. So really, we've only got 5 bags that we're going to be comparing here today. And the Lucky Strike and the measure net, we'll just consider them the exact same net. As I mentioned earlier, all these net bags, they're not the exact same size. The FISHPOND net is, that's, I think, about 15 inches deep. I think the Bozeman Flyworks is like 10 inches deep. This one, the small Adamsbuilt, is about 10 inches deep. The large Adamsbuilt is something like 16, 18 inches deep. And the measure net, I think, is 16 inches deep. So they're all slightly different in size. And to really understand the difference between these coated rubber bags, which are actually PVC, and the rubber bags, which are actually silicone, we need to do an apples-to-apples comparison. So like I said before, the Bozeman Flyworks standard net and the small Adamsbuilt net, they're virtually identical. If you go to the charts at the end of the video, you'll see that This is our control net, and this one is 97%. So it's 3% smaller. So really, they're almost identical. And here's the really amazing thing. The Adamsbuilt small net, virtually same size as the silicone net from Bozeman Flyworks, weighs 65% less. 65% less. Much lighter, much lighter net bag. I also, during this test, measured how much force it takes to lift these bags out of the water, to just lift them straight out of the water. And when I did that, I measured just the bag, not even attached to the net, just the bags themselves. How much force does it take to just lift it straight out of the water? And then how much force does it take to drag it or move it underneath the water? Well, the small Adamsbuilt bag took 50% less effort to lift out of the water and to move underneath the water. So you've got a huge weight savings there, and it's much easier to move underneath the water. So that covers problems 1 and 2. What about problem 3? Too much material. Well, we already saw you got all this material hanging out there. And let's compare that to the small Adamsbuilt net. And whoa, look at that. That is a whole bunch less material hanging out there to get caught on tree limbs, sticks, flies, fly line, all that kind of stuff. Number 4, hole size. Well, as you can see here, substantially different size between the holes. Much smaller holes on the Adamsbuilt bag than the Bozeman Flyworks bag. No fish is going to slip through these holes. I mean, not even a goldfish, not even a tiny goldfish is going to slip through these holes. Now, I will grant you, with the larger holes, especially the much larger holes like you're going to see on a bigger, deeper bag like the FISHPOND bag, if your fly does fall through the hole, it's pretty easy to just get it out. You just grab the tippet and lift up and try not to catch the net on your way out. Well, it's pretty much the same here. Same thing, just grab the tippet. You're going to pull up, but the holes are much smaller, and you've got more material between the holes, closer together. So you're likely to hook the net when you're trying to pull it out. So it may become a two-hand operation where you're, pulling with the tippet and then you got to unhook the fly. But at least this net's not fragile. It's not going to damage your net at all if the fly gets hooked on or around the net. Why not? Because these are coated nets. Inside that PVC, you've got knotless nylon mesh. So first of all, the hook points aren't going to penetrate the PVC. I've never actually had it happen. I suppose it could, but that's such a thin piece of material there. Very unlikely that the hooks are going to penetrate that, or that you're going to get a hook point exactly on that. But even if it does, you've got that material inside there. That knotless nylon mesh makes it much tougher. So with the smaller holes and that knotless nylon mesh inside there, you're not going to get holes in your net. Sticks aren't going to go through your net, limbs, flies, fly line, all that is not going to go through there and create a hole in your net. Now, I already showed you that with this silicone net, my pinky finger could tear a hole in this net. I think you might be surprised to learn that even 7X tippet, like you see right here, will slice right through the silicone. So these are much more durable bags. So that covers number 4 and 5, hole size and durability. And number 6, we already covered that as well. With the zip-off feature, all of a sudden it's very easy to change out the net bag, take the right size bag for our day's fishing. We can be most efficient when we have the right tool for the job, so we can easily change out that net bag and have the right net for whatever river and whatever size fish we might be going after for the day. Now, I know some of you are probably going to curse me after this video. Not right after the video, not during the video, but after your next couple of trips to the river, when you realize that you've got issues with the silicone bags. I've seen this happen before with my fishing buddies. They didn't even know that they were having issues until I pointed them out. Once they had seen the issues, then they just couldn't get past the issues. But at least I'm telling you what the solution is here. So, hopefully that makes up for it a little bit. As far as the net bags go, the coated net bags, what do I recommend? Well, I recommend the Adamsbuilt bags. Preferably, you get the small and the large size. That way you're ready for just about anything. And we'll touch on that a bit more in just a second. I do not recommend the measure net or the Lucky Strike net. They've got very small holes, which is fantastic. The flies never, ever fall through the holes. Not even size 24s fall through the holes. The flies, just laying right there in the net, you can just pick them up. The measure feature is great. The size and shape is great. But because of all those small holes, it has a whole bunch of material between the holes. And that means, oh yeah, that's right, we already talked about material. That thing is just always in the way. Even if you try and knock it down, you still got at least as much material as a silicone net, if not more, hanging out there. And then even if you push it down, you got to, flick that net so it's open. And as you can see right here in this clip, windy day, got a fish on the line, and all of a sudden I'm reaching for my net and my line is wrapped around the net. And why is my line wrapped around the net? Because of all that material hanging out there, catching the line. That's absolutely no good. There's a lot of things to like about the measure net and the Lucky Strike net. Like I said, the small holes, the size, the shape, the zip-off feature. It's actually a really good net, but it's heavy, at least as heavy as the silicone nets. Actually, maybe a little bit lighter, but comparable. It doesn't move through the water worth a damn. If you look at the charts at the end of the video, you'll see that it takes more force to move this through the water than it does the large fish pond net. So, you're not really gaining anything. But if you want to use these nets, they are good nets if you can get past those issues, but that's a lot of issues to get past. And, they fit on the Bozeman Flyworks net frame, no problem. And this one right here, the hoop on this is the exact same shape and size as the carbon fiber nets. So if you wanted to put one of these on there, it'll fit no problem. But I definitely cannot recommend them. Too heavy, too hard to move through the water, too much material, always in the way. Just can't recommend that. So my recommendation, and again, we have no affiliation with any of the companies that are mentioned in this video. Just telling you about solutions to the problems on the rivers that we found that actually work in real life. We're not sponsored. We don't get anything. They don't even know that we're doing this video. So my recommendation, the Adamsbuilt nets, the small and the large, along with the Bozeman Flyworks net. This gives you the most adaptability, the most versatility, and will make sure that you always have the right tool for the job. Now you can see more about the Bozeman Flyworks net and why we recommend using these aluminum nets in this video. And then you combine that net with these net bags and you got a whole lot of options. Right here, I've got the standard small handle, the Adamsbuilt small bag, and I got the perfect net if I'm headed up to a freestone stream up in the mountains going after Gila trout, golden trout, brook trout. Might be crashing through the bushes and stuff. Right there. Got a great net for that. Everything's out of the way. Not going to get caught, not going to get torn. If it gets really hairy, I can just unzip the net bag and put it in my pack until I'm done crashing through the bushes. Once I get to the river, take 60 seconds to zip it on again. No problem. Let's say you're fishing a little bit larger freestone river, maybe a little larger spring creek. You got a little bit more room. Maybe you got a longer rod, a longer leader. Fish might average 12 to 16 inches throughout the day. Well, then I'm going to take the mid-length handle and the small Adamsbuilt bag. I'm going to have a very lightweight net that moves through the water very easily and is the perfect size for the fish that I'm catching throughout the day. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, well, I need to be prepared. What if I hook into the fish of a lifetime? What if I hook into a 30-inch brown while I'm out there? Highly unlikely. Really ridiculous to be carrying around a net for a fish that you might catch, 1/1000th of a percentage of the time that you're out there. But even if you do, I've had a 25.5-inch rainbow trout in this net. It is not ideal. His nose is here, the tail is sticking out here. It is not ideal, but I got to tell you, if I'm out there catching 16-inch fish all day and I happen to hook into a 26-incher and that's the way I get him in the net, then that's fine with me. This will do. What if I'm headed out to, say, the Henry's Fort or the Frying Pan or the San Juan? Someplace where I might encounter fish anywhere from 12 inches up to 26 inches. Well, and I'm going to take the mid-length handle and I'm going to take the large Adamsbuilt net bag. That way I've got a lightweight net bag, less material, out of the way, moves through the water easily, and no 12-inch fish is going to slip through there. And you could probably fit a 40-incher in that bag if you absolutely had to. So you're covered. And here's something you can't do with your run-of-the-mill net. Say I've got a float trip, maybe a half-day float trip. I'm going to do a float the first half of the day. Second day, I'm going to be off wading, fishing some of the tributaries. Or maybe, you're taking a day on your pontoon boat. You're going to float down the river, mostly fish from the pontoon boat, but occasionally you're going to anchor, hop out, and go wading around. Well, there you go. Got all the pieces put together. Got the Adamsbuilt large bag on there, and I got a pretty decent boat net. I mean, it's not a true boat net, but that's a pretty decent boat net. And the net's not going to get damaged if somebody steps on it in the drift boat. So I can use this throughout the morning or throughout the day when I'm on the pontoon boat. And I can take the small Adamsbuilt bag and, roll that up, stuff that in my pack. And when I'm done with the float trip, or once I hop off the pontoon boat, in probably less than 2 minutes, I can take off the handle sections I don't need, swap out the net bags, and have the perfect hand net for fishing the flats or wading up in the tributaries. So 2 bags, 1 net, you're covered in just about any situation. What if I don't want a Bozeman Flyworks net? I don't want an aluminum net. I just want to keep my carbon fiber nets and use those with the coated bags. Well, you can do that. Like I said earlier, the Measure Net bag and the Lucky Strike bag, they'll fit. I don't recommend them, but they will fit. Also, the large Adamsbuilt bag fits on there very nicely. Like I said before, hoop shape on this one, it is aluminum, but it's the same shape and size as the carbon fiber nets. So you can see that's actually a pretty nice bag on that size hoop. The small version of the Adamsbuilt will definitely not fit on your standard carbon fiber hand net. Are there any other coated bags out there that weren't covered that might be that Goldilocks bag, that one that's just perfect, just ticks all the boxes? Well, not that I've found. The combination between the small and the large Adamsbuilt, definitely the best combination I've found thus far. The large, it is a little bit large for the Bozeman Flyworks, the hoop size, just a little bit, but you just wind up bunching up that extra material right down there at the bottom of the hoop, and it doesn't give you any issues. And actually, that's a pretty good size net. Works really nicely. If Adamsbuilt is watching, if you would be kind enough to make us a medium bag, that would be just beautiful. But so far, that's all of the nets that I've found. And like I said, the Adamsbuilt, those two sizes seem to be the best combination that I've come across thus far. You're going to hear this over and over throughout the TroutWise series of videos. You're always going to be most efficient and most effective when you've got the right tool for the job. And this solution allows you to have exactly that. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. Please don't curse me if you start noticing problems with your silicone bags the next time you're out on the river. Stick around if you want to see all of the nitty-gritty information, the details on the 5 different net bags. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.